Let's see. Yeah, 24 hours after the pirating of the truck in South Dakota, 36-year-old Daniel Toshiro Kabashi was sitting on the lower sleeper in his 18-wheeler at a Love's truck stop on the outskirts of Twin Falls, Idaho. As electronica music played on his truck speakers, he found himself writing an Arabic script on a golden painted paper plate. Yeah, as electronica played on his truck speakers, he found himself writing an Arabic script on a golden painted paper plate. Daniel heard a clicking sound and saw that a CD he had placed into the laptop a few minutes earlier was finished having data burned onto it. Although he was wearing plastic transparent gloves, he treated the CD as if he didn't want to get his fingerprints on it still. Daniel pulled the CD from the burner, held it between both palms, and placed it in the middle of one of the paper plates. He then took off one of the plastic gloves, took a little piece of sticky tape, placed the sticky tape parts of the tape on his naked thumb, touched it with his thumb over again in about 3 different angles until it was fingerprints crossing fingerprints. As Daniel did such a thing, memories of what he was doing began to travel through his mind. One memory was of a giant burning Sears Tower, now known as the Willis Tower. Oh, yeah. Giant Sears Tower, now known as the Willis Tower, standing like a big black burning monster in the middle of Chicago, against the backdrop of a beautiful sunset. Crying people on their rooftops. Desperately trying to catch the attention of a lone helicopter after 2 others had collided, trying to reach them before the fire did. As such memories played once again in Daniel's mind, he tapped the CD down with the tape into the. He taped the CD down with the tape into the middle inside of the paper of the painted paper plate. While using a knuckle to rub off whatever fingerprints were still on the non-sticky side of the tape, Daniel reminisced further, remembering the Willis Tower, formerly known as the Sears Tower, tilting in a horrifying fashion against the sunset right before being struck at its base by another falling and burning Chicago skyscraper. He could still hear the screams, including his own, as the then black and glowing mighty tower roared down onto the smoke and flames of the city below. Roared down into the smoke and flames of the city below. Daniel thought of how unbelievable a scene of how unbelievable such a scene was. So incredible that he wondered if what he was doing now inside a big rig truck was just part of some crazy dream he might soon wake up from. Am I really doing this? He asked himself. Oh, how Daniel hoped it was just a nightmare he would soon wake up from. But he also knew it was something he had wished for many times before. Daniel continued to work away on his latest weapon, which he would place inside the truck stop restroom. He picked up the paper plate and examined his latest creation. As he examined it, Daniel thought about the president's response to the Islamic attack on Chicago and how the response had changed his life. Here, Daniel began to find himself growing in anger again, for instead of the president talking about destroying the Kaaba and Mecca and burying it in pig waste, or even going so far as threatening to nuke Mecca if another nuclear device was set off in the city, the president instead sat behind a table of the Oval Office talking about how Islam was peaceful and was a peaceful and tolerant religion. How it was a great religion that, for unknown reasons still, was just hijacked by millions of really evil and stupid people, possibly under the control of Satan, trying to make Islam look evil and satanic. We will never be at war with Islam, Daniel remembered the president saying behind the table with the camera on him that day. Such a sentence made Daniel grit his teeth. Daniel sat stoically as he remembered the president then saying, "In spite of the best radiation detectors we had in an American city, evildoers were able to set off nuclear devices in Chicago, bringing down the Willis Tower, while almost bringing down the John Hancock building as well. And my fellow Americans, that can't be allowed to happen ever again. Since the nucleing of Mecca will undoubtedly set off countless more nuclear devices in our cities, which, again, we are unable to prevent, I am ordering the removal of all material off the internet that Muslims deem hateful toward both themselves as well as Islam. If anyone objects, they'll be interned and detained in undisclosed locations. If anyone resists, if anyone resists, he will be shot on sight. Again, we cannot allow a nuclear device to be set off. We can't allow another nuclear device to be set off in our cities." In the speech, the president had stopped short of installing Sharia law to appease evildoers in the name of Islam. But he reiterated again that all material on the internet seen as, quote, hateful toward Islam would be removed as soon as possible. Daniel Kavashi tried to control his anger and concentrate on the object he was preparing. He then continued to check to see if there was any residue of hair, fingerprints, or DNA anywhere on the packet that could get him a one-way ticket to one of those undisclosed locations. Finding the object evidence-free, Daniel picked up a marble from a can and put it in his top shirt pocket as he eyed a little white bag of flour that was a bag made of that was made out of a bag of toilet tissue paper. Daniel took some tape, made a Mobius strip of it, and placed it on the little bag, right when he was about to tape it down onto the CD, and place another CD over it to seal it in. He stopped himself and said, No, it's not time. It's not quite time." He removed the bag of flour and placed it on the side of his mattress. "This is not the place for it," he said to himself. Daniel became still as he thought what to do next. Noticing that it was looking like it was going to snow, Daniel picked up a stapler and took the CD taped to a paper plate. Placed another paper plate within it. After placing it under the black leather jacket he was wearing, he then walked over to a CB, turned it on, and said, "Hello, I'm a person of the book, obeying Quran 568, which tells me that I have no ground to stand upon unless I stand firm upon the Torah and Injil. And I'm waiting for you, a Muslim, to come to me for my reading the before scriptures, which is the Bible, because Quran 1094 told Muhammad to do so if he was in doubt about the Quran. And Muslims are to use Muhammad as their example. And I've read the before scriptures, that is, again, the Bible." Daniel waited for a while. A voice of a trucker came in asking what the shit he was talking about. Is there a fucking terrorist in the parking lot? The trucker asked. Daniel didn't respond. He waited a bit and got out of his truck to head toward the truck stop. When Daniel entered the restroom of the Love's truck stop, he suddenly smiled a bit, and when he looked at this, he suddenly smiled a bit when he looked at the sink. Great, it's gone, he said silently to himself. But the smile soon faded when he decided to check the trash bins. He reached in and pulled out one of his paper plate packets that he had placed into the restroom a couple of hours earlier. It was crushed with a big oily shoe print on it. When no one was looking, he walked over to place it onto the sink he had placed it on earlier. Suddenly, he noticed a piece of the CD he had placed inside it had fallen out from a crack that hadn't been stapled. It was not only stamped on, but bent and broken into two parts. Still, he placed it on the sink and was just about to leave the room when he suddenly noticed writing in English on the other side of the gold-painted plate packet that didn't have the shoe print on it. There were 3 words written with a felt pen on it, spelling out, "Death to haters." When he saw that, Daniel suddenly felt a bit ill to his stomach. How did they know it had anything dealing with Islam if it hadn't been played? Daniel looked about the restroom nervously to see if he was being watched. Finding no one suspiciously looking at him, he left the room while trying to act composed, all the while scanning the semi-crowded truck stop store. As he walked past a couple of aisles stacked with heart-clogging trucker food, he noticed that some young Middle Eastern-looking guy wearing a cowboy hat near the exit of the truck store. The young guy with the hat was looking at him. Daniel smiled and waved at him, but there was no wave of friendliness from this guy. Instead, he put his black leather gloved hand up to his throat and made it look like he was putting a knife across his throat. Yeah. Instead, he put his black leather gloved hand up to his throat and made it look like he was putting a knife across his throat. It looked like he was putting a knife across it. Well, I used throat. I said, okay. Oh well. Okay. He then pointed at Daniel and gave Daniel a glare of extreme hate. If there was such a thing as the evil eye, this guy was giving Daniel both of them. I guess I'll read on a little bit longer here. Okay. Yeah, this guy was giving Daniel both of them. Daniel felt his heart pound as though he was about to pass out. The young guy quickly left through the exit doors. Daniel quickly collected himself and ran after him to see where he was going, but the young man had disappeared under the trailer of a truck that was fueling up. Daniel looked down and saw that he must have run under other tractor trailers as well, vanishing into the cold darkness. Daniel could feel a rising apprehension, but he knew he couldn't let it paralyze him. He quickly tossed out the paper plate material from under his jacket and ran as fast as he could through the trucks, nearly getting run over by a big rig that came tearing around a corner of parked tractor trailers, just missing Daniel by inches. So concerned was Daniel about where his possible killers were that he forgot about the crushing wheels of 18-wheelers. Every little dark place Daniel passed now seemed to be to him as about as safe as a hungry tiger's lair. Oh crap! I went past